For multi-article dissertations, there are 3 governing bodies to be aware of for how to construct your paper. For non-published chapters, there is your chosen style guide. For published or to be published chapters, follow the journal's author guidelines. Finally, there are the TWU content specifications for your final draft. Think of TWU as the final journal you submit to, and when in doubt, follow our specifications. TWU is in charge of the front matter of your document, which consists of everything from the cover page until the list of figures. So that includes this page, the dedication page, acknowledgements, abstract, especially the table of contents, list of tables, list of figures. Put simply, every page with a lowercase Roman numeral, as well as the cover page, which does not have a page number, falls under TWU's jurisdiction. TWU also indicates what your appendices and your chapter titles should look like. They should be centered in all caps at the top of the page. The chapter titles should use Roman numerals, and the appendix titles should use letters. Both should be on the same page as the information it qualifies. So, for example, with this Appendix B, we show a screenshot example. So it's on the same page as the screenshot. And then in terms of chapter title, this is what we are in charge of. Chapter 1. While TWU is in charge of the look of chapter titles and appendices, it does not dictate the content of those elements. For example, this chapter in the formatting template is called Chapter 1 Introduction. But you could call your Chapter 1 Research Questions, and then you would just put Research Questions here in all caps, centered. Finally, TWU is in charge of the font size, font style, margins, spacing, and page number formatting. All that information will be included in the multi-article technical manual earlier on to get into the specifics of those things. TWU also specifies that any list numbered or bulleted should be indented to 0.5 inches. For non-published chapters, consult your chosen style guide. The important guidelines of note are how the headings appear in your paper, how they should be formatted, how your references and citations should appear, how your tables should be set up, and how your figures should be set up, how to capitalize your table titles, your figure titles, your headings, and whatnot, and how numbers should be formatted throughout your paper, and more. Your style guide is an incredibly important tool, and we recommend getting familiar with your style guide as soon as possible. To that end, we recommend reviewing the TWU LibGuide for Writing and Citing. You can find a link to that on the Thesis and Dissertation homepage under Writing and Research Resources, Writing and Citing LibGuide. We showcase these examples of non-published chapters in chapters 1, 3, and 5. So here it says APA. You can see, okay, and then that's chapter 1. We have chapter 3 here. As an example, you can see the chapter references as well for chapter 3. And then, of course, chapter 5. You can see how it follows APA in regards to tables, figures, and references. We use chapters 2 and 4 to indicate how to set up published chapters. In general, you will be following the journal's specified author guidelines. However, there are some TWU specifications I will go over in a minute. In the formatting template, we show that the journal guidelines are, for this example, are AMA 11. We chose these very visually different style guides in order to show how necessary it is to be familiar with both sets of guidelines. For example, AMA uses a numbered reference system, whereas APA is author date. And then obviously this is a very different heading level 1 from this heading level 1. So this is why we have students upload a copy of their journal's author guidelines to Vireo so that the graduate reader and formatter can be up to date on how the final draft of the document should appear. TWU requires that for published chapters, the chapter title is the same name as the article title. TWU also requires that you indicate whether the article is published or to be submitted for publication. If it is submitted for publication, TWU requires you indicate what journal the article is to be submitted to. Only if you already know. If you do not know specifically what journal you're submitting to, leave that element blank. And finally, we want to know all authors involved in the writing of the article. If the chapter is fully published, your author guidelines will indicate how this section of your chapter should appear. In conclusion, TWU is in charge of the front matter, appendices, chapter titles, page numbers, where it's located on the page, margins, font, and spacing. The style guide and your journals are in charge of the body of your paper, the headings, the tables, the figures, the references, obviously, and much more. Familiarize yourself with all these elements to ace the review process. And don't be afraid to ask the graduate review team to help if you have any specific questions. If you are ever confused as to how to go about formatting your paper, TWU specifications, there are 2 resources that we recommend. The Multi-Article Dissertation Technical Manual and the TWU Graduate School YouTube channel. If these resources do not provide you with an answer to your question, reach out to the graduate formatter.